Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 741 of the Juicebox Podcast. Sergiu is on the show today. He is the father of a young child living with type 1 diabetes, and he's here to share his story with us. While you're listening, please remember that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. Let me take this opportunity to ask you to go to t1dexchange.org/juicebox and fill out the survey. Every completed survey at t1dexchange.org/juicebox benefits people living with type 1 diabetes. It also helps the podcast. The T1D Exchange is looking for surveys from U.S. residents who have type 1 diabetes or who are the caregiver of someone with type 1. This is completely HIPAA compliant, absolutely anonymous, will take fewer than 10 minutes, and helps everybody, including you. t1dexchange.org/juicebox. It's a great way to be involved in type 1 research right from your sofa. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by InPen from Medtronic Diabetes. Please go to InPentoday.com to learn more and get started today with the InPen. The podcast is also sponsored by Touched by Type 1. Go to touchedbytype1.org to learn more about my favorite diabetes charity. The podcast is also sponsored by US Med. US Med is the place where we get Arden's diabetes supplies, and you could too. Go to usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514 to get your free benefits check from US Med.
I am Sergiu. I am 33 years old, and I am the father of Stefan, who is almost 4 years old, and he's been a diabetic since the age of 2 years old.
Since he's 2.
Almost.
How old is Stefan now?
His birthday is on the 2nd of March, and he was diagnosed in 2018 in November, just a few months before his birthday.
So he's coming up on 4 years with diabetes?
Yes.
And
No, 2 years. 2 years with diabetes.
Excuse me, 2 years. And how old is he?
He's almost 4 years old. In 1 month, he will be 4 years old.
Gotcha. Wow. Well, that's pretty young to be diagnosed, that's for sure.
Yes.
You know, I just reached out to a person today to try to get someone on the show whose 5-month-old has diabetes. And that seemed crazy to me. So hopefully she'll be able to come on and talk about it. But where do you live?
We are living in Bucharest, Romania, in Eastern Europe.
Is that where you're from originally?
Yes. My parents are from Bucharest, and I'm also living here.
Is there any history of autoimmune in your family?
After Stefan was diagnosed, I researched this because also the doctors at the hospital were asking this, if anybody in the family has diabetes, and nobody has diabetes type 1. But my mother, she has Hashimoto's. She has an autoimmune disease with her thyroid.
So your mom has Hashimoto's. Your son has type 1. You couldn't find anything else like celiac or
not that I know of, and I don't think anyone has anything else because they all lived long lives, and
Well, it must have been a shock, that's for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So how did you figure out that Stefan had diabetes?
I knew the symptoms of diabetes, but I didn't know what diabetes means. I didn't know that it was such a horrible disease and that you must take care of it your whole life. I knew that if somebody has to go to the bathroom a lot and they're thirsty most of the time, they must have diabetes. And we went to his doctor, and I requested some kind of analysis that could indicate to us if he has diabetes.
Do you know what they did to check?
They weren't so concerned about this, and they said we should go to a laboratory and they will take some blood. And we did this, and we went home. They went to sleep, my wife and Stefan, and during that night they started calling from the blood laboratory because they found out the result, and it was around 600 milligrams per deciliter.
Wow. Did they have you come right to a hospital?
They told us to call an ambulance, and the ambulance picked my son up, and they went to the hospital that is specialized in diabetes. And he was put on IV immediately with glucose and insulin, and he was stabilized in the next few days.
Okay. Do you have any other children?
No.
No. How old are you?
33 years old.
33. So you were just you were just 30, 31 when he was diagnosed.
Yes.
First child.
A few days after my birthday.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's insane. So how long does he stay in the hospital for?
Usually one has to stay around 1 week in order to learn the main principles of diabetes, in order to learn how to bolus, how to take blood from the fingers, but they stayed around 10 days because they wanted to learn more. My wife and my son.
Is that how does health insurance work for you? Is that something you pay for from your own money? Do you have insurance? Does the state pay for it? How does it go?
In Romania, everyone who is employed has universal health insurance.
Okay.
You pay from your salary. The taxes are automatically collected, and you are insured.
I see.
And people who are not employed, such as minors and students, they are also covered by the universal healthcare system.
Oh,
this is a very, very good thing.
No kidding. Yeah, that's wonderful. So who's not covered? People of working age who aren't employed? Or are they?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, people who are not employed, but if they pay their taxes, they can be insured.
And how about the elderly?
They're also insured.
That's amazing.
Because they have a pension, and they're automatically insured. Yes.
So how do they set you up for management? Are you using insulin pens, needles? Do they give you a pump? How do they think about it there?
They gave us pens, Novo Rapid pens, and they put us on fast-acting insulin and slow-acting insulin, Levemir and Novo Rapid.
And just a meter to test with?
Yes, the meter you also use, the Contour Next One meter.
Oh, well, wonderful. I'm glad it's getting around. So how did you find, 2 years old, he couldn't have weighed much, right?
Yes, I think he was around 13 or 14 kilograms.
Gotcha. I'm going to do my little math here. So you come home, no real idea about this, although your wife and your son stayed longer to learn more. Who takes on the responsibility? Is it your wife, or do you share it?
My wife was staying with him at the time she was at home, and she continued to stay with him. And during the day, she was managing his diabetes, and in the evenings and during the weekends, I took on this job.
Okay, to give her a break.
Yes.
Yeah, and
during my hospital stay, I spoke with the doctor, and they told me that we could apply for a pump after 6 months.
Okay.
This is the legal requirement. After 6 months of diabetes, you can apply for a free pump and a free sensor from the state. Mm-hmm. And the only supplier of such things is Medtronic.
Right. Did you apply?
And, no, because I knew that a pump with a wire would be difficult for him, since he was only a toddler. Mm-hmm. And I joined a local Facebook group regarding diabetes, and I found out that there were other options. But these were not paid by our insurance, because they're not officially in our country.
I see. So there are options.
Dexcom and Omnipod. Yeah. Omnipod, yes.
Were you able to obtain them?
I managed to obtain first the sensors, and because the doctor told us that we could first buy Medtronic sensors, and afterwards they will be paid by the state, but they were very expensive, and the Medtronic transmitters were very expensive, and also the sensors, and I also found out that they were not so reliable as the Dexcom ones. Mm-hmm. So I decided to buy Dexcom G6 sensors.
So are you? I mean, how are you able to
we used the blood glucose meter for only 2 months, and afterwards we switched to the we moved on to the glucose sensors.
Is that a burden for you financially?
It is, because I know I can obtain the Medtronic sensors, and but they're not so reliable, and I can't loop with them, and that's another reason I cannot use them.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's fascinating that you were able to find them. Do you get them through the internet? Do you have to travel to get them? How do you obtain them? I mean, you don't have to be super specific, but I'm just interested in how you're able to do that.
We get them from another country. There are also some local suppliers, but they are more expensive, so it's cheaper to get them from abroad. And even if we have to pay shipping, it's cheaper than buying them in Romania.
I understand. Wow, that's something. How's your son doing?
He's doing fine. Yes, we are looping with Omnipod and Dexcom, and he has a GMI. I don't know what GMI stands for, but that approximation of in clarity,
they call it glucose management indicator.
Yeah, he has a GMI of 6.2 for the last 90 days. The standard deviation is about 50 milligrams per deciliter.
Yeah.
He has no eating restrictions.
You're doing terrific. That's really wonderful.
We have spikes because we never know how much he's going to eat. And one day he will eat a lot of one thing, and the next day he will eat less. So I always pre-bolus, but I sometimes get it wrong.
Yeah, me too. I sometimes get it wrong too. I think everyone sometimes gets it wrong. How do you find yourself talking to me?
I found your podcast in 2020 during the COVID pandemic. I started listening to it, but somehow I didn't think it was right for me, because your podcast is in general American oriented, and I couldn't get all of the inside jokes or all of the manner of speaking.
Yeah, my stupidity doesn't translate well.
No, but I didn't have all the tools and all of the knowledge, and I was still in my infancy regarding diabetes, and I left it, and then more months passed, and I understood some things by myself, and I reapproached your podcast, and I understood that what you're doing is universally correct regarding diabetes.
It applies, and if you're using insulin, it doesn't.
It applies to everyone in the world.
Right. Well, that's so. I'm really grateful. But initially, how do you find it? Are you searching on the internet, or somebody tells you about it?
Yeah, I was searching on the internet things about diabetes tools. I joined the main groups, CGM in the Cloud, Looped. I started reading about Loop. I acquired the pumps in the first trimester of 2020, but we didn't use the pumps because we had to go to a hospital, and it was very difficult during that time. And we said we should wait more in order to see what's happening.
Right.
Because most of the hospitals were busy with COVID, and we couldn't find the right time to go there.
It's hard to want to go to a hospital during COVID if you don't have COVID. I think that's universal as well. We're actually seeing in America now that people were putting off other health issues. And so a lot of the traffic that we're seeing at hospitals right now is for things that people were just waiting on because they didn't want to go in right away. So I think that's a fairly common decision. How long has your son been wearing a pump at this point?
I think it's almost 1 year. In 2021, in January, we went to this doctor, and they helped us put the first pumps. And afterwards, we were doing insulin therapy with a pump. And but I was growing impatient because I didn't like to wake up during the night and go to the PDM and bolus or stop the basals. So one day I took his phone, I installed Looped, and I told my wife that from now on we will be using this software, this algorithm.
Did you have the technical know-how? Was it not much trouble for you to make the Loop app and put it on your phone?
It wasn't that difficult because the documentation is really well written, and I was able to follow the steps. And I read about the problem that might arise on the groups, so it wasn't that difficult. But it was difficult. It was difficult to persuade my wife that this is the right way to go.
Because it's something you got off the internet, or because you were giving a 3-year-old a cell phone.
He was already using the iPhone because we don't have a CGM receiver. We were using the iPhone as a receiver for the Dexcom. But she was not very happy because she didn't read the documentation. She hadn't had the time to prepare to see what Loop is and how one is supposed to use it.
Yeah, it's a leap to when you first find it. It's a leap for sure to trust something that you're just. I mean, I feel like I always have to put in the episodes in case people don't understand that Loop is a do-it-yourself algorithm, and it exists online. You can just download it and use it. It was written by people who have diabetes or love somebody who has diabetes. It's not produced by a company, and it hasn't been through any testing with the FDA here in America or any other body, around the world. So you're jumping in on faith, but it does work really well. And if you could figure out how to create that app and get it on your phone, it's really just there's nothing like it so far that I've seen. I have a lot of hope for Omnipod 5. They just discussed it on the show 4 days ago, as it was cleared by the FDA. But Loop's a lifesaver for sure. I'm fascinated that all of that stuff makes it to Europe, because it's not sold there, or is it? It's sold some places, but not in Romania. So Omnipod exists some places over in your part of the world?
Yes, Omnipod is present in all of the Western European countries, the developed countries, Germany, France, Spain, Italy, the Nordic countries, in the UK, but not in all of Eastern Europe.
Okay.
And that also applies to Dexcom. In the meantime, since I've written the email to you, I've seen that Dexcom has launched a new service in Eastern Europe called Dexcom One, and they sell Dexcom G6 sensors at a cheaper price. The app is not so; it doesn't have all of the options as the normal Dexcom G6 app. You don't have followers, but you can loop with the sensors, and they have the same precision. So that's all you need.
But you would like that other functionality, I imagine, the followers and.
No, not really. I would be very happy if they also launched this service in Romania.
Okay.
Our neighbors in the south, in Bulgaria, they got this new service, and they are officially supported by Dexcom. They can go to the App Store and download the Dexcom G6 app or the Dexcom One app, and they can buy locally the sensors. This is great.
Yeah. I mean, perhaps I've never spoken to them about it, but maybe it's spreading. Maybe they're finding a way to move it around the world, which is incredibly needed. It's just because people are already buying in Romania Dexcom sensors. And if Dexcom were to come, they could also participate in the state public tenders. They could sell to the state sensors because the state, we have a national diabetes program. And the only supplier we have is Medtronic. Yeah, well, Medtronic's it's a huge company, so if I'm guessing, they can absorb the cost easier of spreading the product out, whereas smaller companies might have a little bit of trouble, with that overhead as you're expanding. I mean, I'm guessing. I don't really know. Maybe I'll ask them sometime to really talk about the process and how they get into new areas. It's really I mean, because you really are, being in Romania, you're sort of just right in the middle of Eastern Europe, right? You're not landlocked, yes, but you're close.
No. We are not landlocked. We have access to the Black Sea, and we are surrounded by countries that seem to have one of these two suppliers, either Dexcom or Omnipod, and I don't understand why they're not coming here, because there is a huge demand for their products.
Okay.
People
I'll tell you what,
would like to use them.
The next time I speak to somebody, I'll bring it up and see if I can. I mean, I'm not saying I'm talking right to the top, but I'll put it in somebody's head that they're missing a country in the middle of a place where they're pretty much covered otherwise. So, I mean, there's got to be some. You have to imagine, if they're everywhere else around you, there's got to be something that's holding them back that is out of their control. You wouldn't imagine that they would just skip one country in an area, I'll have to find out, see what we can figure out.
Yes.
It's interesting.
I mean, the products are being sold here by third-party suppliers, but Dexcom and Omnipod, they're not officially present here. I cannot go to the Romanian App Store and download the app. I have to register in a different country in order to download the app. And, I mean, the products are here, but they're not officially here. Then that's the problem.
Yeah, no, I understand. Well, you mentioned in your note to me that you have a fair amount of guilt about your son's diagnosis, and I was wondering when you began to notice it and how it's impacted you, and if you've had any luck working through it. Today's episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by InPen from Medtronic Diabetes. InPen is an insulin pen that offers some of the functionality that you've come to expect from an insulin pump. I know you're thinking, "Oh, Scott, please tell me more." Well, I will. Yes, the InPen is a pen, but it also has an application that lives on your smart device. This app shows you your current glucose levels, meal history, dose history, an activity log, glucose history, active insulin remaining, a dosing calculator, and reports that you and your physician can use while you're trying to decide what your next step is. Well, it's not just an insulin pen. Now is it? InPenToday.com. That's where you're going to find out more information and get started. If you're ready to try the InPen, just fill out the form at InPenToday.com or do some more reading. There's actually some videos you can check out too about the dosing calculator, the dose reminders, carb counting support, and the digital logbook. So if you want to lighten your diabetes management load, but you're not ready for an insulin pump, InPen is probably right for you. InPenToday.com. InPen also offers 24-hour technical support, hands-on product training, and online educational resources. And here's something else that you'll find at InPenToday.com that is actually very exciting. Now, this offer is for people with commercial insurance, and terms and conditions do apply, but you may pay as little as $35 for the InPen. And that's because Medtronic Diabetes does not want cost to be a roadblock to you getting the therapy you need with InPen. $35. How crazy is that? InPenToday.com. InPen requires a prescription and settings from your healthcare provider. You must use proper settings and follow the instructions as directed, or you could experience high or low glucose levels. For more safety information or to get started today, you can go to InPenToday.com. Have you found that getting your diabetes supplies can be a pain in the butt? I have too. But not any longer, because now we're getting Arden's diabetes supplies from US Med. To get a free benefits check, just call 888-721-1514 or go to usmed.com/juicebox. US Med has served over 1 million diabetes customers since 1996. And they want you to know that they're offering you better service and better care than you're getting now. US Med always provides 90 days worth of supplies and fast and free shipping. They carry everything from insulin pumps and diabetes testing supplies to the latest CGMs like the Freestyle Libre 2 and the Dexcom G6. Arden gets her Dexcoms and her Omnipods from US Med. US Med accepts Medicare nationwide and over 800 private insurers. US Med is the #1 distributor for Freestyle Libre systems, the #1 specialty distributor for Omnipod DASH, #1 fastest growing tandem distributor, the #1 rated distributor in Dexcom customer service satisfaction surveys, and they are proud of the white glove treatment that they offer their customers. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. And that 888 number is special just for Juicebox Podcast listeners. Now, if you decide to go to the website, it's super simple. Here's what it tells you when you get there. Getting started is easy. From the comfort of your own home or office, you can now join over 1 million satisfied customers who rely on our staff of courteous, knowledgeable, and trained US Med customer care representatives to keep you up to date with your medical and diabetic supplies, delivered right to your door. Super simple benefits check. Name, phone number, email, zip code, and then just hit the button that says request a free benefits check. It's that easy. Let US Med take care of your supplies so you don't have to worry.
I don't know. I haven't thought about that in a long while, but my wife, she blames herself, and also she blames me because she thinks that we could have done some things different in order for this not to happen.
What do you mean, like not take the baby somewhere, or I don't know. What do you think could have? I mean, what does she think could have been done, or has she not shared it with you?
The first years of parenthood were a difficult time for us because we're young parents, and we feel that we could have done some things different. We could have been there more for him. We could have gone in more vacations, or I don't know.
It's this. Is it kind of? Is it sort of just this nebulous feeling that there was something you could have done, but you don't really know what it is. And you just feel badly for not knowing what that thing is?
I don't think it's that nebulous, because we also had some discussions in the house, some fights, and there was maybe some lack of emotional support on my side for her during her motherhood, and she feels that this might have had an impact on his health and might have made him
Like stressful?
yeah, stressful. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, listen, you're a boy. You're only as good at this as you can be. And then it takes a while. It takes a while for you to figure out how to be a father. Much longer than it does for most people to figure out how to be a mother. It's much more instantaneous a lot of times for women than it is for men. And you almost have to see things happen and that require your emotions that maybe you weren't used to giving in the past. I mean, listen, if you want my opinion, there's nothing either of you did that caused it. I mean, you have somebody in your family line who has an autoimmune disease, and that just makes it more likely. I assume your son had antibodies, and he probably they probably got triggered somehow, a virus or some sort of an illness. I mean, I can't imagine that there was enough stress for a 2-year-old in your household to notice it, but I do understand the feeling that you wish you would have done something.
Yes.
So
and also the people around us, they blame. I mean, they never say it, but in a way they hold us responsible for this, because they can't imagine how a 2-year-old boy can get such a terrible disease.
So people from the outside who don't understand how diabetes works just assume that you must have done something wrong. There's just that assumption.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that happens pretty universally, honestly. People who don't understand diabetes in their minds, it's an old person's problem. And then when it happens to a child, they just figure you fed them wrong, or, who knows, took them on a ski trip to Chernobyl. I don't know. I don't know what they imagine, but it's just not the case. I mean, I was a stay-at-home dad to Arden. I was with her every day. She did not have a particularly stressful life, and I was very careful with what I fed her and where I took her. And, she was still diagnosed when she was 2 as well. I think it was just going to happen,
I understand.
Yeah. Well, I hope that you guys can get past that and let it go, because, I mean, it's not valuable, and you're certainly not going to figure it out.
I see.
Yeah. And so you guys still split care now? Your wife during the week, you in the evenings and the weekends? Still going like that?
Yeah. And I'm the one who is bold with insulin, and she's less bold with insulin. And we sometimes peacefully fight about this.
Well, we did that in my house last night. So don't I was upstairs working, and the girls were downstairs. My daughter is finishing up applying to colleges. This is her very last college to apply to. She applied to like 10 of them. She wants to go to fashion school, and she applied to the top 10 fashion schools in the U.S. And she's already been accepted to most of them, but she still wants to make this final application. And they're downstairs working, and I think they left one room and went into another, and somehow, I don't know what happened, she got away from her phone and lost the signal for her CGM, which, with loop, then her blood sugar started to go up, and then she got reconnected. And I noticed, and, later in the evening, I said to my wife, I was like, how could you guys be together for 2 hours and no one thought about her blood sugar? And my wife's like, well, I thought you were looking. And I said, well, you were with her. I assumed you were. And we went back and forth a little bit about it. I don't think it's very uncommon to have those conversations when your kid has type 1.
Yes.
It's not great. When Or has he already begun school? Does Stefan go to school, or will he start?
He's currently going to kindergarten, but since this is his first year, um, most of the times he's sick. He gets the cold or the flu, and he's most of the time at home. And the kindergarten is close to home. My wife leaves him there, and she goes at lunch to Bolus for the food he's eating. We were thinking to switching to Android APS, since we could remote Bolus for his meals, but it was difficult. She had to learn a new program, so we decided to go on with Loop.
No one at this.
It's going fine. Yeah, it's going fine at this moment.
Yeah, I imagine it is. Is there anyone at
we
school?
We can also use the remote overrides in case he needs more insulin, and it's okay-ish at the moment.
Yeah, is that through Night Scout?
Yeah.
I do that too. Still, I did it last night. It's not a perfect answer, but you can get by with it. There are definitely times I've seen Arden be stressed out at school or something, and I can't reach her, and I'll like push her basal up temporarily, and it does help. But what I was going to say is, there no one at the school who's willing to be involved, or is that just not how this works?
I don't think they are ready at this point to take this task on, because they're still learning about the app, and but they might bolus him at some point in time.
Yeah, maybe you'll find somebody.
People there,
would save her the trip. It's not far though, you're saying, for her.
Yeah, it's not far. It's a 5-minute walk.
And do you work from home, or do you go to a place of business?
No, we used to work from home in the first part of 2020, and afterwards they decided to remove this option. So I have to go to work every day.
I see. My wife's getting ready to go back to the office, and if I can be honest with you, I'm a little excited. I want everything to go back a little bit more like the way it was. She's been working from home, it feels like, for 2 years now. And it actually might be coming up on 2 years. And it
can be stressful.
I think people just need to get out and move around a little bit. It's not great to be able to get up in the morning and walk 20 feet to the place where you're going to sit back down again. And, it often keeps people working for too long. And it's good to miss people a little. You know what I mean?
Yes.
We've run out of things to say to each other in the middle of the day. So, hopefully that'll all work out. I think they're starting back like 2 days a week, and then they're going to try to move it forward from there. So, having said that, they've been saying that for the last 7 months, and it keeps getting pushed off. But she's supposed to go back a week from yesterday. So I think she's excited too. I'm making it sound like I'm the only one that's excited, but I think she'd like to go back to work as well.
They're putting this off because the number of cases is still big.
Every time they plan for it, something happens, and then there's something with the building and something with services, and then it was Omicron, and it just kept getting pushed and pushed and pushed. And she said to me the other day, "I'm going to go back on Monday," and I laughed. I was like, "No, you're not. There's no way that's actually going to happen." But hopefully it will. We'll see. Now Arden uses our second car to go to school with, so I think I'm going to be the one left without a car. I think my wife's going to drive to work, and Arden's going to drive to school, and I'm going to be stuck in the house by myself. So we'll see what happens.
I see.
Yeah, but Arden's off to school, in the fall, and she won't be taking a car with her. So I think we'll be okay. What is the what's the diet like where you are? What are common meals that you have?
I think we have a meat-based diet in Romania, but one can also eat Mediterranean or vegetarian. I don't think the diet is very different from the American one. I mean, in the cities, because we have McDonald's and KFC, and also people can eat fries with a steak at lunch.
Right.
Well,
Are there many processed foods, things that come in boxes and bags?
we have those. We have a lot of processed food, but one can also eat from the greengrocers and can go to the farmers market and get some fresh product. There are a lot of options.
Okay.
We mainly cook in our home, but we also buy from restaurants or fast food sometimes because I don't want to restrict him.
Hmm. Do you find it easier to bolus from things you make at home?
Generally, yes, but because we use recipes that have been tested and we know how his blood sugar will react to those ingredients.
Hmm. Are you wow, what do I want to ask you here? So do you know how to manage diabetes without the loop? Like what would happen if it just like disappeared? Would you be okay? Or do you think there'd be a learning process again?
He was on pens for 1 year, so I could manage him with pens, although I never got to understand how the long-acting insulin works. I never got that. I knew how to bolus. I understood the boluses, but I always felt that there was something not quite right with his long-acting insulin, and that thing I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think the Levemir really lasts for 24 hours. So you were probably
I've listened to your episodes in which you said it's a good idea to split the doses, but I never got to do that. So
okay, you got away from it before you tried it.
Yes,
man, it's probably smart. Do you get out of loop often? Do you ever open the loop and manage on your own?
Not really. Only if we have problems with the site, or if he sometimes when we put the pump on his belly, he strips it and during sleep, and the program thinks the pump is on his skin, and we get a lot of insulin on board, and afterwards I have to open the loop in order to correct his blood sugar.
Right. Are there people?
But I should do that more often. I should test his basals, but I never get to do that, because at night, if he is stabilized after his evening meal, I am relieved and I'm happy and I can go to sleep. So
yeah, it's hard to want a basal test overnight when you can get a good night's sleep for sure. Do you have people in your extended family who understand this? I mean, can you and your wife go to dinner by yourself or something like that, or do you not have anybody to help?
Yes, my mother, she knows how to interact with the application, with the loop, and sometimes the protocol is that she has to call us and tell us what he's eating, and afterwards we can make a guesstimate of his carbs. But in the last times, she decided to use it on her own. She introduced the carbs she thought were necessary, and she took control of the app.
Wow. Well, that's great. I mean, it's just nice to have a break. Are your parents, are both your parents together and living?
Yes. Yeah. They're living and they're in the same city.
Does your father
here in Bucharest?
Does your father have any understanding of it at all?
I think he saw that my mother can use the app, and he is happy with this situation.
I bet I would be. I'll tell you, I'd be thrilled if somebody would figure it out and take it over. Give me a bit of a break. Are you planning on having any more children?
I wish he had a brother or sister, another sibling, but it's difficult.
Is it difficult?
We cannot. It's difficult to make this decision because we don't know if the next child will will have an autoimmune disease or will have diabetes.
It doesn't feel it's a risk, right? It feels like
It's a risk, and also because of the costs we are currently having with these supplies. If the supplies were provided by the state, maybe the decision would not be that difficult to have another child.
I understand. Yeah. It's not something you think about often, but you just said that, it made a lot of sense to me. You're putting out money that would go towards feeding another person or clothing them or sending them to school one day, and instead you're paying for these supplies. And
yes,
yeah, it would be a leap to make. Do you think you're more worried about the money or the prospect of another child having an autoimmune issue?
I think both of the things worry me, because let's say the next child can also have another they can have diabetes, and that would mean that wouldn't be so difficult because we know how to manage it, but it would be difficult money wise because we couldn't afford to buy supplies for 2 children and have a normal life and have vacations and all of the other things people with children that don't have diabetes buy or enjoy.
Where do you go on vacation when you leave?
We go in the mountains because we have mountains here in Romania. We can also go to the seaside, Black Sea, or we can go to in Greece, in Bulgaria.
That sounds nice. My children bother me to go to Greece constantly. That's the place that everyone wants to go. And they keep reminding us that they're graduating. My daughter's graduating from high school. My son's graduating from college. We want to celebrate. We want to go to, and then they both say Greece all the time. Do you think that's
it's probably a lot cheaper for us because we can go by car. It's we can drive 10 hours and
you're there.
Enjoy a nice.
Well, hey, let me ask you a question. If you had to fly across the Atlantic Ocean to go to Greece, would you do it?
Probably not.
You're telling me to find a place in Ohio? go for a little ride. How?
That would be wise.
Well, I'm the one who's always like, I think this sounds like it's expensive. If we're going to spend that much money, I don't know. Like, I don't know. That's just what they talk about all the time. So we'll see what happens. Sometimes Arden says France, and sometimes she says Greece, and I don't know if we'll ever do it or not. But it was good to hear from somebody who can drive to it that maybe flying to it wouldn't be worthwhile. I forget what I was going to say. I had a thought in my head about that. Have you ever been to America, was my question.
No, unfortunately, I haven't been to America. I wish I could go there sometime in my life.
Yeah, it would really be interesting to you to do.
Yes.
What's your understanding?
Especially since I've seen a lot of American movies and American shows, and I've read American books. It would be interesting to see the real thing there.
Do you think it would be disappointing if you got here and you realized it was a lot like Romania, but with newer buildings?
No, I don't think I would be disappointed because I am conscious that America is a lot of things and there are a lot of different people and different geographical areas. And
yeah, I would like to see more.
It's not the same. It's not the same in all of the American states.
It really is. It's very different. I mean, Romania is probably, gosh, not even the size of one of our, I don't know, like medium-sized states. I would imagine. Yeah, that's really something. How about anybody in your family? Has your mother, your father, do you have brothers and sisters, anything like that? Anybody been here?
Actually, my wife, she has been to the US during her student life. She took on this work and travel option, and she worked there during her summertime, and she also got to visit some of the states in the US.
Wow, how long ago was that?
maybe 10 or 11 years ago.
Okay. I looked it up. It looks like Romania is about 70% larger than Florida just by square kilometers. That's interesting. It might not be interesting to you. It's interesting to me. I feel like, Arden, for example, is looking at a school in Georgia. And in a couple of weeks, we're going to go visit that school so that she can get a good look at it. And we're talking about driving. And it's going to be like a 12, 13-hour drive for us just to get from New Jersey to Georgia. And
I see.
Yeah, it's quite a, it's hard to even consider. We're thinking maybe we should fly, but we wanted to drive and kind of turn it into a little trip. So we're trying to figure out what to do. But I don't know. It seems exciting to me to be able to drive from one side of Romania to the other in a couple of hours. That seems better. I wish I had that kind of proximity to the things that were important to me and around me. What I was going to ask a different question. Is there anything that I'm not asking you that you wished we were talking about?
Not really. I had some notes for the show, but then I decided to talk freely with you. You invited me on the show, and I wanted to offer this view for somebody from this part of the world, because there are not so many episodes with people outside of the US. And
no, I
think I am.
Go ahead.
Go on. Sorry.
No, I was going to
I think I am using the same things people on these international groups are using, and my only desire is to have these options officially here in Romania.
Yeah. So
I enjoy your show a lot, because it's not only for the things I learn from it, but also for the therapeutic side of it.
How so? What about it is therapeutic for you?
That there are other people that are confronted with this, and it's nice to listen to their worries and desires and the solutions they find to the different problems in their life. Because it's difficult to discuss diabetes with people that don't have it or don't manage it for other people that have it. Right. They cannot understand it.
Does your wife listen to this at all, or is it mainly you?
No, she doesn't listen, because she doesn't have the time.
No, it's just interesting, because mostly when it's one or the other, it's frequently it's the wife over the husband. But I didn't think she did. I was just wondering. And you like that interaction between just a faceless voice out in the world that has pretty much every one of your problems and every one of your challenges and issues these other people have as well. You can't meet those people anywhere else. And when you go
it's comforting to listen to people when I do the dishes at night, and to listen to people that had the same problem as I did during the day, and after a botched bolus, and when I am sad and worried, it helps me to listen to the podcast.
So, when that happens, describe the sadness for me. Is it concern for your son, or do you feel like you failed? Where does that hit you?
Oh, I know that he will not be in any kind of danger in the short time, but I am always thinking about the long game, about the long term consequences of this disease, and I don't know what will happen, because I want to have stability in the blood sugar levels, and sometimes I feel out of control, and I don't know what will happen in the future, how I will be able to pass on this knowledge to him at some point.
Would you be willing to tell me how this process over the last few years has changed you? Because if I'm listening and paying attention, you were maybe more classically a guy, when maybe before you had kids, and now you're a person describing doing the dishes and worrying about the future of health. So has there been a big shift in who you are over the last couple of years?
I don't think there has been a big shift. I became even more worried, but fundamentally, I am the same person that is that likes control and that likes to have a grip on things.
Mm-hmm. So you
but I was indeed more relaxed in the past, but less so now.
Sergiu, me too. I was definitely more relaxed before diabetes as well. I said to my wife last night, she's like, "What are you doing?" We were laying in bed and I was like, "I'm rubbing my back." And she said, "Why?" I said, "Well, it's been hurting for 15 years." I'm trying to get ahead of it here. Which I'm sure some days is stress actually. But okay, so for you, it's the feeling of being out of control is not comfortable for you, and the feeling of the unknown for your son's health is not comfortable for you. And these were not things that you were feeling prior to diabetes.
No.
Okay. Do you see that as a livable way to be, or is it something you think about trying to work past?
I have come to accept some of the things. I'm not so worried now when I see a high blood sugar, something over 180. I try to dose more insulin and take care of it, and I'm not so worried. But I think about the moments he will be in school or when he will be a teenager, and my wife, she thinks this is a very important aspect, his emotional well-being and the way he will be able to accept this disease, because it's not enough if we take care of his diabetes now, but we also have to make him think in the right way about the diabetes in order for him to take care of this disease when he'll be on his own.
Well, I can tell you there's some things you can't get prepared for. Yesterday, I watched Arden messaging with a girl who they both might end up at the same college, and they start talking about rooming together. And I asked Arden afterwards, I said, "Did you tell her you have type 1? And she said, "Yeah, I don't want it to be a surprise to people." And I had to say to her, I was like, some people may be scared of that. And she's like, "I know. I just, I don't want it to get dropped on them at the last second. So I'm telling people when I'm having these conversations." And I wasn't sad about it. Like she handled it really well. It would have been nice if that wasn't a reality for her. But at the same time, she assessed the situation and she did what she thought she was, what she thought she should do. But later in the evening, after we went to bed, her blood sugar started to get a little low, and I had to help her. And when I got back in bed, my wife's like, "Why are we letting her go to college? Like, how's this going to work when she's, not here?" And I have to admit, still one of the things I'm working out. I'm not sure either, but all I know is that hundreds of thousands of other people with type 1 diabetes go away to college, and, far and wide, they're okay. So there must be an answer that says people figure things out. You get what you get, and then you find a way to live with it. And for the most part, that does work out for people. So I just kind of keep the faith that answers will show themselves as time passes.
I see.
Yeah. Hopefully,
yes.
Hopefully your son will have that same experience.
Yes.
It's terrible to worry about things that may never happen, and that even if they do happen, you might not have much sway over to begin with. But I know how you feel, and I don't say you shouldn't feel that way.
Yeah.
Wow. Cool. How are we doing, by the way? Is this going well for you? Are you enjoying this, or are you like, "Oh, this guy's boring in person.
No, it's going great. Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad, because you have I don't know. Are you nervous?
Yes, I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm also I'm going this cold or flu I'm having, and it's a little bit difficult to talk.
I didn't realize.
But it's okay.
I'm sorry.
It's not that bad. And I didn't want to reschedule
because my schedule is terrible. And if you would have rescheduled, your son would have been in second grade by the time we talked.
I don't know what this would have meant. I didn't check the next available slots.
It's September, I think.
Okay, so it's probably the best decision, the good decision I've made, not to reschedule it.
Yeah, since it's what is today? April Fool's? No, what was I going to say? Groundhog Day. What was I thinking? February 1st? I think it's Groundhog Day, isn't it? That might not.
I don't know. We don't have that.
Yeah, I'm wrong about that. Groundhog Day's tomorrow. Not that matters to you, but yeah. Wow, it's February 1st, and yeah, you couldn't have gotten back on the schedule until September. Yeah. So for people listening, rescheduling, don't do it.
Don't do it. Yes.
Unless you've got time. I have had interviews with people that take place 18 months after they reached out eventually, because they'll have to reschedule a couple of times, which is fine. Like, I don't mind. It just slides forward in the schedule. But I have put episodes up with people who I've spoken to, over a year prior and sometimes longer. It's a good.
They are very loyal to the show.
I always think that. Oh, Sergiu, I always think like, wow, you really like. I mean, if you made me plan something next Wednesday, I'd be like, oh, I don't know if I can do that or not. That seems so far from now. But yeah, people do it, and I don't bug them, and they're always here. I turn this thing on almost every day, and there's someone on the other end. I'm very grateful for that, actually, the loyalty. And the concern to want to build on top of the show, which I think is really what you're doing. You're just trying to put a building block for somebody else to hear. So I'm very
and also the podcast empowered me to help some other people that were using Omnipod and Dexcom, and sometimes we on this local group we have here, somebody needs a Dexcom sensor, and somebody else offers to sell one, and I got to sell a few sensors because they were having some problems with their shipping, and we discussed about the management style and about the supplies we use, and I found out they were using Omnipod and Dexcom, and I told them about Loop. The first time I sent to them the documentation, and I told them once more the next time I got to sell them some sensors, and because they were afraid to try it, I offered to help them with Loop. Although I know this is contrary to the spirit of Loop and because one has to do it only on one's own in order to get it right. But I help them, and they are managing it okay right now with Loop.
That's very kind of you. I understand the idea that people should figure it out on their own, but I have to be honest with you. If I had to figure it out on my own, Arden wouldn't have it. I know. I mean, what you said earlier about how clear and well written the documentation is, you're 1,000,000% right. But my brain doesn't work that way. Like, I don't know how to tell you. If I look at instructions, I don't even read them in order. My eyes dart around for pertinent information, and I don't know. There's something wrong with me. But I don't think, I mean, maybe I could force myself to do it, but it would not be easy. And by the way,
is it anxiety, or you
I don't know what it is. Even if I look at a recipe, I just look at the ingredients, and I know there's do this first, do this second. I have a hard time even looking at that. I just like to dive into things. I open up a box. I don't care about the instructions. It's not, I'm not impatient, and it's not laziness. I don't know another way to say it other than my brain just doesn't work that way. I think that's why.
I understand.
I think that's why I'm good at talking about diabetes because it's not, if it was segmented or bulleted, I would be the worst person to sit down and read through, a list of 10 steps you were supposed to take. I can't do that. While you were talking earlier, it made me think, and I looked, and in the pretty recent history, I have 5,000 downloads in Romania. I'm huge in Romania. This is very exciting.
I don't. Is it is it very little or a lot? I don't.
Well, I mean, for for an Eastern European country where I would think it would be pretty unheard of for you even to figure out that I exist. That's a fair amount. It really is. Pretty comparable to Saudi. I'm looking around here. Russia, India. The show's really picking up in India over the last year. I'm noticing more and more listeners in the Facebook group who are from India. But yeah, I mean, once you get into Germany, France, the numbers jump up significantly. United Kingdom, it's actually pretty huge in the United Kingdom. There's hundreds of thousands of downloads in the United Kingdom.
Because they're already English speaking. Yes.
Yeah, they can probably make a little more. I probably don't. Do I speak quickly for you?
No, you speak very fine. I can understand you, but I don't have the practice of speaking in English, and that's why my English is not that good. But we consume a lot of English speaking products here in Romania.
Well, I have to say I don't agree. I think your English is great. Like, I've heard you slow down to find a word, but now that I understand you're sick too, I don't even know if that's what you're doing. So, no, I have no trouble understanding you or keeping the conversation going whatsoever. Yeah, I just never would have imagined you may be my emissary in Romania. I appreciate this. Do you tell people about the podcast?
Not really, because I don't know. I never got to tell anyone about the podcast because I don't think people here are podcast listeners in general, and I feel that this podcast is a niche thing, and I don't know if they could listen to it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, I'm not going to lie to you.
It has a very American vibe to it, and I think people have to be accustomed with American culture in order to start listening to it.
Well, just to say that in that part of the world, I did not expect to have many downloads. And to be perfectly honest, I don't, except in Romania. That's insane. I've never really looked at it before. And now I'm looking and I'm
maybe those are my downloads.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think you could have listened that many. You didn't listen to the show 70 times over, did you? Like the whole thing?
Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
I've listened to most of it. I am up to date with the episodes. I think I have 10 or less than 10 episodes I have to listen to.
Oh, that's
something. Because you put out a lot of episodes every week.
I'm prolific.
Yes, you are very prolific.
Listen, I got ads. You understand what I'm saying? I need a place to put them.
Yeah, that's a very good thing.
Yeah, it really is. It's unexpected, I guess, is the best word for me to use. I didn't think, I asked Omnipod, my gosh, 8 years ago almost. I was like, I need you to buy an ad on this podcast so I can tell my wife it makes money so I can do it. And, they gave me a very little bit of money and bought an ad, and it was incredibly helpful. So I, that's what got me started. I never imagined it would be so popular that it would do this. Actually, last night as the month ended, I looked at some numbers. I'll share them with you. I have no one else to tell about this. I just keep it for my own edification. But the month of January 2021 had more downloads by 100,000 than the year 2018.
I see.
Which is insane. And the last 3 months had more downloads than 2019. So,
and the majority of these downloads come from the US, or they come from all around the world.
Yeah, overwhelmingly they're from the US, but then places like Canada, Australia, United Kingdom, those are my next strongest downloads. And it's picking up in other places, picking up in Japan, like I said, India, South Africa. It's fascinating where people find it. You know, I just interviewed a boy, like a 17-year-old kid from Ecuador recently, and he listens. So it's getting there. Hopefully one day people will talk more freely about it. But I still think the problem is sort of what you brought up earlier, is you don't know anybody really who has diabetes that you could speak to about it. It makes it that much more difficult to share because you don't meet people who would be interested, you know?
I mean, I know the people in the local diabetes group, but it would be difficult to recommend them the podcast, because this seems like a very personal recommendation to make.
Certainly.
And yeah.
Plus, they probably hate me, and then they're looking at you and wondering why you're listening to this. You know, then they start judging you. I understand what's going on. Don't worry. You don't want to be you don't want to be embarrassed by me. I hear it. I feel like we're dating.
I don't think that it's that, but they most of the time they are looking for some fast advice or some
something quick
website they can read some information, and the podcast takes a lot of time in order to understand it and to make the most of it.
Yeah, I agree. It's a commitment, but I think it pays you back from that commitment too, in a way that just reading an article or hearing a little bit of information maybe can't enrich you as much. So I listen, I'm thrilled that you reached out, and I'm so glad you found the podcast. This has been incredibly enlightening for me talking to you. I want to make sure you don't have anything else you want to say before I say goodbye, but I really do appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, it's been great, Scott.
Well, I hope you'd feel better as well. I feel badly that you're sick.
No, it's going away. It's fine. I just wanted to thank you for the podcast and for the opportunities that it gave me to help other people with Loop and with managing diabetes for their children.
It's my pleasure. I appreciate that you listen. It's I hope you can understand how kind of fantastic and strange it is to learn that there's somebody, you know, in Romania listening to me talk about diabetes. It's certainly unexpected when I get these notes. So I really do appreciate you telling me, or I would never have any way of knowing.
Yes.
Thank you. Please tell your wife I said hello, even though she doesn't know me. And, you know what I did want to ask you one question. When your son's a little older and he starts getting involved in sports, what would be the sport of choice where you live?
The sport
like
of choice
athletics,
I think it would be soccer, as you call it in the US. Mm-hmm. But I'm not such a big soccer fan, so maybe he could go swimming or riding a bicycle.
Gotcha. There's no
soccer is the national sport in Romania.
I have it. You're right. It's just there's so many options here that people choose from, and I was wondering, you know, like is there baseball where you are?
No,
nothing.
We don't have baseball in Romania or in Europe. I don't think it's that big.
Right. Cricket?
No. That's India.
That's just pretty specific to India.
I mean, from my knowledge, yes. I don't know anybody who's playing cricket in Romania or Europe.
You know, now
there might be clubs, but it's not a big thing.
Yeah. See, now that you're
soccer,
saying that.
Tennis, these are big things.
Right.
Cycling.
Yeah. I realize now that you're saying that I see men playing cricket all the time, but now I realize they're all Indian. So yeah, I guess now I'm thinking about it. I've never seen anybody but Indian men playing cricket around me, but we just have such a mix of people that you just kind of get accustomed to it. You know, it's funny.
Yeah.
I never considered that those guys weren't mixed very much. That's interesting. Okay. Well, I appreciate you sharing all that with me. I really do.
Sure, yeah. I wanted to tell this funny story because I helped that family with a loop because they were already using Omnipod and Dexcom, and afterwards somebody requested some help on loop. They weren't using Omnipod; they were only using Dexcom, and because I was very excited from the first time, I got this very positive feeling from helping them. I decided to help this family, and I sent them the documentation. They tried to build the app, and they didn't manage to do it. And afterwards, I decided to go to drive to their home, 2 hours drive. They never used Omnipod before, and I installed the pump on their son, who was a teenager. But in the same time, I was feeling very strangely because it wasn't quite right, but there was no one else to help them.
Yeah.
And the father of this teenager was a cop, and he was looking suspiciously at me doing all those things. I was working on my laptop trying to build their Night Scout and the app, and they were looking at me in the same time. But I managed to do it finally, and they were relieved.
Yeah, well, they were probably very grateful, and at the same time thinking, who would do such a nice thing? You know, it's
yeah.
I've had that experience, by the way. I've there are a couple of people local to me that I've helped, and I have been in people's homes, and it is a different feeling when it's not somebody you know at all. I can understand completely what you're talking about. Well, this is really nice of you to do, and you got a lot out of it too, huh? It felt good.
Yeah, it felt really good, especially because I know it will make a difference in the long time, in the more stable blood sugars and lower blood sugars, and this can mean a lot for a child and a teenager.
It certainly can. I get to feel like that every day, but it's very exciting to hear that somebody else gets to feel that way, because I know how personally valuable it is, honestly. And
I would have never would have done it without listening to your podcast. I would never have had this courage to talk to people and to tell them that we can do this together. We can build the Loop app, and yeah.
Oh, that's extraordinary. I appreciate you sharing that with me very much. Thank you. Wow.
Yes.
Now you touched me at the end there. I didn't expect that. I feel like I was in Romania helping somebody with Loop, although you were much better suited to do it, because if I showed up with a laptop, I'd be like, I don't know, I got to call a guy. I don't know how to do this. Wow. Thank you so much. A huge thanks to one of today's sponsors, InPen from Medtronic Diabetes. Head over to InPenToday.com to get started with the InPen. There are links in the show notes of your podcast player and links at Juiceboxpodcast.com to InPen, US Med, and all of the sponsors. And speaking of US Med, you can get your free benefits check at 888-721-1514 or by going to usmed.com/juicebox. Getting your diabetes supplies shouldn't be difficult. And don't forget to check out Touched by Type 1 at touchedbytype1.org or find them on Facebook and Instagram. Don't forget to check out the private Facebook group for the podcast, Juicebox Podcast Type 1 Diabetes. It is free and it is private. Go over there, meet other people like you, ask questions, or just lurk around and see what other people are talking about. Most other podcasts want you to pay to be in their private group. I would never ask you to do that. All the information you want, all the interaction you need, Juicebox Podcast Type 1 Diabetes on Facebook. I want every aspect of this podcast to be valuable for you and free to you. Everything you need to know about the podcast is at juiceboxpodcast.com. For instance, say you're looking for a podcast player, but you can't find one. It's at juiceboxpodcast.com. You're looking for the Diabetes Pro Tip episodes, but you don't know where they are. Juiceboxpodcast.com. Also, by the way, diabetesprotip.com. Anyway, that's the website. Check it out. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back very soon with another episode of the Juicebox Podcast.